Okay, one final tour around the shop. 85 East Road. This section here used to be the fasteners department back in the day, when I first started here about nearly 50 years ago. One of the first things I ever did was put some stock away in fasteners, and we had runs of shelving here, all going back to that back wall. I got up onto this first one with my bit of stock, put it on the top of the shelf, and I heard a and all of a sudden I jumped back and the whole thing went down like a pack of dominoes. And we actually employed a guy at the time called Ernie Missing, and we searched everywhere, and Ernie Missing was missing, and we were very, very concerned that he was stuck in amongst all the racking and shelving and nuts and bolts. But fortunately, Ernie Missing had popped out for a cup of tea, and he wasn't missing, and unfortunately there was nobody in between the bays of racking. But they had what we call nuts and bolts soup for a while. We collected up all the loose nuts and bolts and put them all in a box and shovel them out. And you could buy it by the pound. Interesting. But there we go. So in here, we had down there, we had a cellar where we carried all sorts of precious things, silver, solder and various other items were down there. And then in here, we had this department was British Standard pipe fittings, gas pipe fittings, all different sizes. And here we go. Oh, there's Andrew, having a last wander around. Anyway, today is the final day that Mackays will have an occupation of 85 East Road. So I thought I'd give a little tour around, one final hurrah. So here, this is the extension that we put on back in the start of the 80s. My brother would know the precise date. Anyway, that was the back wall back in the original shop. So we broke through there. And originally there was a big wire mesh cage here full of twill weld and chicken wire and all sorts of things. In between that there and the shop, the back of the workshop, which is over there. And then my father's office. We had the engineering office here, which was a two-story building, dead upstairs. And that was before we knocked it down and put this extension on the shop. And that used to be the entrance through to the the clocking in room, which the clock is down at the Industrial Museum down at Cheddar's Lane. I can almost hear the sound, ka-ching, dong, ting, as the staff all clocked on to specific jobs that were heavy. And coming through here, we had, originally there was one big counter. We've taken up the parquet flooring. That's going to be recycled. But there used to be one big counter here, about 40 foot long, mahogany, inch and a half thick, great big, wonderful piece of wood. One of our managers had a bright idea and took a chainsaw to the end of it. Took about 10 foot off the end. Anyway, hand tools and all the nuts and bolts, all the main hand tool section was here. And we had power tools down at the far end. Before we put this extension in, and early days of the shop back in the 1930s, this actually was a garage for our Bedford lorry. Great big Bedford lorry was backed in here, and that did many, many miles all over the country, engineering projects. We had a driver on one occasion, he wouldn't get away with it nowadays. He got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, drove the Bedford lorry all the way to Scotland, up the A1 as it was then, complete with roundabouts and what have you, and back, and then did a second run to Scotland in the same day. Wouldn't be able to get away with that with tachometers or tacos, as they call them, whatever Mexican food it is. Anyway, cash office. This used to be an ironmongery section and paints and all sorts of interesting locks and security was here. Yes, we had key cutting machines in there. And coming through, we do this in one shot, one smooth shot. You break through into what used to be originally the engineering department, so latterly became retail space as well when engineering moved down to Church End. You still see the craneage up there. And in here we produced some absolutely amazing engineering works over the years. Groundbreaking, because basically after the war the university didn't have much in the way of engineering facilities. We were it. We had all sorts of Nobel Prize winners and scientists came through with their latest idea. Perpetual motion machines were even developed here. Well, we proved them wrong and they went away very happy. And this was Gordon Friend's welding shop. Over in that corner we built one of the first machines or towers that they pulled fibre optic cable. About 15 metres high, built in sections. And we had the Astronomer Royal used to come and sketch drawings, Martin Royal, sketch drawings on the floor. Not precisely where, but anyway, my father brought his engineering board, drawing board down, and turned them into engineering drawings. Well, here we come through into what used to be the machine shop, John Cheesley's land. John, sadly, only recently passed away. Lived out in Soham. Very, very skilled engineer. I remember on one occasion, a dear friend of ours bought a vintage car, which was a bit of a pup. It'd been backfilled with araldite backfiller, and we cut out a section of the block and force fit a replacement, which actually worked. Quite phenomenal. This was lined out originally with Huron milling machines and lathes of all types and sizes. And then right down at the far end we had a big Meekoff milling machine, which is absolutely enormous, groundbreaking again in its day. My father always went for capacity, big craneage above here. Latterly, my son actually had his plasma cutter, 8 foot by 4 foot plasma cutter, which he cut out all sorts of fascinating shapes. That's all moved up to our new place at Nuffield Road. But under here, in this ground is actually, good luck to the person who actually demolishes the building. We had some people through recently talking about maybe having it as a car park in between. Anyway, he wondered if the foundations were solid enough. There's a block here which is about 20 foot long, 12 foot deep, 8 foot wide of reinforced concrete. That'll take some digging out. Anyway, so we go through here into what was originally our metals warehouse, subsequently became small works, light engineering, if you like. Mike Hatley, Baz Clayton. We also had all our sheet work here, guillotine. I've done a previous video of the guillotine moving out. We had expert machinery movers, taken it up to Nuffield Road and installed it for us. So when I came here first, there was a mezzanine floor here, And upstairs with all sorts of very precious brass and various other materials up there, all kept under lock and key. There's the back door out into New Street. So, we'll wander back through into the shop. Here we go. This is the section that most customers didn't really get to see very much, but in latter years this was a sort of a retail space as well, repurposed. And then here we go. Out into what became latterly a ladder store and fireworks store. But originally, and I've got the drawings for this, I found in my father's office, this was our fabrication department run by Barry Smith, who again only relatively recently passed away. What an amazing engineer, what amazing collection of engineers that were gathered around my father, and apprentices and really skilled tradesmen over the years, produced some phenomenal work. And in here they built the very first radio telescopes in the country, possibly even in the world, still standing out at Barton Road. And originally this store was further down. This went all the way down to New Street, so it was quite a lot longer. And we then, when we sold the land to the Crown Court at the other end, which was our original car park, coming out into Parker's Terrace, many staff and family lived in Parker's Terrace over the years. Anyway, we converted what used to be, as you see, the engineering operation used to go all the way down to the road there. But subsequently, it's become car park. We needed a car park and get our customers here. And I remember when this was a battery servicing department. Another company we took over, a company called Gaydors, and then my father decided that when he invented this extraordinary method for building spiral staircases, and spiral staircase department was on this section. Here we made spiral staircases. There's one of them in the Hilton in Park Lane, weighs over 60 tons. Single flight spiral staircase built to my father's patent. And also James Bond movies, Diamonds Are Forever, From Russia with Love. Also sport spiral staircases by Mackays. The goodies go up and down them a couple of times in Willard White's Desert Hideaway, and then on the gas rig at the far end, right at the end of the Diamonds Are Forever. However, so let's see, is the door open into here? Possibly not. Oh, I shall have to add in some film I took of the old metals warehouse. Originally that was a timber yard for builders merchants, but we took it over and converted it. Anyway, so that's a little tour of the downstairs of 85 East Road on the very final day that Mackays actually are occupying the building, and Anglia Ruskin University now taking ownership. We'll be handing over the keys later. So here we go, back into the shop. I shall go upstairs and give you a little tour of the back office, if you like.